1991. Saudi Arabia, deep in the night. A team of Navy SEALs heads into the desert in dune buggies. No armor, no air cover, far beyond the front lines. They look more like racing machines from California than military vehicles. But ahead of them lies Iraq. Their vehicle is called the Desert Patrol Vehicle, or simply the DPV, and it may be one of the most unusual combat vehicles ever sent to war. To understand the DPV, we need to go back to the 1960s, to the deserts of California. Back then, nobody was thinking about the military. Enthusiasts were building lightweight dune buggies with tubular frames and Volkswagen Beetle engines, then racing them across the sand simply for fun. They were cheap, lightweight, and surprisingly capable off-road. They could go places where ordinary vehicles would get stuck. Over time, these buggies became so effective that they began dominating the famous Baja 1000, one of the toughest off-road races in the world. And that's when a simple idea was born. If a machine could survive hundreds of miles of desert at the limit, maybe it could do more than race. Maybe it could fight. In the 1980s, U.S. Special Operations Forces were looking for a new vehicle for desert missions. It had to be fast, lightweight, and compact enough to fit inside a transport aircraft or helicopter. Heavy military vehicles simply weren't suited for that kind of work. That's when the military began paying attention to California's desert buggies. One company in particular stood out: Chenoth Racing Products. Chenoth was already building some of the fastest desert racing vehicles in America. Now it had a new assignment: build something similar for Special Operations Forces. The result was something few people expected. The first version appeared in 1982 under the name FAV, Fast Attack Vehicle. It was originally developed for the U.S. Army. Later, Special Operations units adopted the concept, refined it for their own needs, and the result was the Desert Patrol Vehicle, better known as the DPV. Take one look at this machine, and you'll understand why it still shocks people today. An open tubular frame, no armor, no roof, seating for 3, a driver and 2 gunners. If you showed it to someone who had never heard of the DPV, they would probably never guess it was a military vehicle. At the rear sat a 2-liter air-cooled Volkswagen engine producing 200 horsepower. Despite that, the DPV weighed less than a ton. For comparison, a Humvee weighed several times more. Top speed reached 95 miles per hour, more than 150 kilometers per hour. For a vehicle carrying machine guns, grenade launchers, and even missiles, that was almost absurd. With auxiliary fuel tanks, range could approach 1,000 miles, about 1,600 kilometers. Few military vehicles of its size could travel that far without refueling. But the DPV's greatest advantage wasn't its speed or range. It was designed from the beginning to be rapidly deployed by air. DPVs could be carried by CH-47 Chinook and CH-53 transport helicopters, while a C-130 cargo aircraft could deliver several at once. That was exactly what Special Operations Forces loved about it. A vehicle could be sitting on a base one day and operating hundreds of miles deep in the desert just hours later. And despite its lightweight design, the DPV carried serious firepower. An M2 Browning .50 caliber machine gun, M60 machine guns, an Mk-19 automatic grenade launcher, or even 2 anti-tank missiles. Just imagine it. A desert racing buggy armed with machine guns, grenade launchers, and anti-tank missiles. That was the DPV. January 17, 1991. Operation Desert Storm begins. While the world watches airstrikes over Baghdad, the DPV faces its first real test. Teams of Navy SEALs and Army Rangers head into the desert. Their mission is reconnaissance, directing airstrikes, tracking Iraqi troop movements, and searching for mobile Scud missile launchers. This was exactly the kind of mission the DPV had been built for, and it didn't take long to prove that the concept worked. When coalition forces entered Kuwait, Navy SEALs riding DPVs became some of the first American troops to enter liberated Kuwait City. For a machine that had started life as a desert racing buggy, it was a remarkable journey. But this raises a question that almost everyone asks the first time they see a DPV. How can something this exposed, with no armor and almost no protection, be a combat vehicle? The answer lies in the concept itself. The DPV was never designed for direct confrontation. It wasn't meant to stand and fight under enemy fire. Its job was to complete the mission and disappear before the enemy could react. Armor adds weight. Armor slows you down. Armor limits mobility. For a vehicle like the DPV, speed was considered a better form of protection than armor. It was a philosophy heavily influenced by Britain's SAS. The same Pink Panther Land Rovers we've talked about before were built around a similar idea: mobility instead of armor, speed instead of protection. But the DPV took that idea even further. The Pink Panther was still a vehicle. The DPV was almost a motorcycle, a very angry motorcycle. But even the DPV had a limitation. The vehicle was almost perfectly suited for open desert terrain. That's exactly what it had been designed for. The problem was that the world isn't made entirely of deserts. Special operations forces increasingly needed vehicles that could carry more equipment, more fuel, and handle a wider range of missions. So the DPV began to evolve. New variants appeared, including the Desert Fast Attack Vehicle and later the Ground Mobility Vehicle. They became larger, heavier, and gradually moved away from the original concept of a lightweight desert buggy. Today, the original DPV is no longer used by the U.S. military. New vehicles have taken its place, but the idea never disappeared. A lightweight, fast vehicle with long range and serious firepower remains an important tool for special operations forces around the world. The DPV left military service. Its concept did not. And I think that's what makes the DPV story so fascinating. It looked like a toy, like a machine built for racing across the desert, yet it proved so effective that it influenced how special operations forces move across the battlefield even today. Not every military vehicle leaves behind a legacy. The DPV did. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments, which vehicle should we cover next?